The Shadows of Rosrwood, Part 2. It was a time of a chilling frost. Even the old folks couldn't recall such a cold night. Yet there they were, braving the swamps in the dead of night in their night clothes. Black American citizens fleeing from enraged white mobs as their homes were incinerated. This event left an everlasting scar on the state of Florida. Hi, I'm CJ Green. Let's get started. On the cold morning of January 1st, 1923, New Year's Day, a shrill scream echoed from the residence of Fannie Taylor, a 22-year-old woman in Sumner, Florida. A neighbor who chanced upon Taylor found her sobbing, with her body covered in bruises. She alleged that a black man had assaulted her. She repeated this story to Sheriff Robert E. Walker, emphasizing that she had not been raped. On the other hand, some of the black employees in Sumner contended that Taylor's assailant was her white lover, and that the story of a black man assaulting her was fabricated to hide her extramarital affair from her husband, James Taylor. However, an angry James Taylor was hell-bent on avenging his wife's honor. So he assembled a mob in his pursuit of justice, calling upon the white populace of Sumner and the neighboring counties, along with a number of KKK members who were congregating in Gainesville. Initially, the mob scoured the local woods for any black man they could lay their hands on. Yet, when word got out about an escaped black prisoner named Jesse Hunter, the focus shifted to his capture. But Jesse Hunter was nowhere to be found. That just convinced the mob that the local black residents were harboring him, and so began the massacre. When the mob reached Rosrwood, they did not like the sight of the black residents living more comfortably than they were. This further fueled their anger, and they surrounded Sarah Carrier's home, and the shooting began. Once the mob ran out of ammunition and departed to restock, the houses were left with the bodies of 2 women and a man. The bloodstains indicated several others had been injured. The assaulters set the village homes and structures on fire, and those escaping from the burning homes were shot at. The victims were sometimes cruelly taunted before being killed. When the mob captured a black woman, they tried to force her into confessing that her husband was the assailant. And when she resisted, they violated her, while the torching and terrorizing continued, even after the mob dispersed. For several days, many returned to Rosrwood to burn what remained. Except the home of John Wright, the white shop owner, was spared. The surviving black residents, fearing the mob's return, fled Rosrwood, leaving behind a ruined township. In 1923, Levy County investigated the Rosrwood massacre. However, despite nearly 30 testimonies, primarily from white witnesses, the jury claimed insufficient evidence for prosecution. It wasn't until 1982 that justice seemed possible. Gary Moore, a journalist with the St. Petersburg Times, interviewed survivors who were ready to share their stories. His articles on the massacre garnered nationwide attention. In 1993, the survivors of Rosrwood and their descendants requested the Florida legislature to acknowledge the atrocities and admit the state's failure to protect its black residents. Florida became one of the few states to start a reparations program for survivors of racial violence. By April 1994, both the House and the Senate passed a bill to compensate the victims, providing over $2 million in total for the survivors and establishing a scholarship fund. Today, a Florida heritage landmark stands where Rosrwood once thrived, as a reminder of the heinous racial violence that took place. It represents recognition of past events and the hope for a better, more compassionate future. This concludes The Shadows of Rosrwood, parts 1 and 2. If you like this type of content, please share, like, follow, and subscribe.